Welcome to Crime Beat. I'm Anthony Robart. Tonight, a mother is horrified to discover her 5-year-old son and her parents missing. This would spark one of the longest Amber Alerts ever in Canada and have the entire country and beyond hoping and praying for their safe return.
Was it just somebody in the neighborhood that just randomly went, to a house and got into a residence at night?
We don't know the motive behind this. Right now, we have 3 individuals who have disappeared under suspicious circumstances.
I couldn't say for sure if they were dead or alive. It was more than plausible that they were alive.
This is the worst possible thing that could ever happen to a family.
Nathan, how old are you today? 5. No, you're not.
To whoever has Nathan, please find it in your heart to drop off our little angel, Nathan, to which he can be rescued and reunited with his brothers and his family.
Here's Nancy Hixt with part 1 of Hunted by Evil.
In 2014, on the first long weekend of the summer, a Calgary mother went to her parents' home to pick up her 5-year-old son following a sleepover. When she got there, her son and her parents were missing.
Stay strong, Nathan. Stay strong. We know you are our superhero, and I just need you to stay strong, and we are going to see you. We're going to see you, and we love you so much.
That was the starting point of one of the most horrific cases in Canadian history. Alvin Lickness was 66 years old. His family considered him an original thinker. He loved to invent new things. But most of all, he loved to go for long walks with his wife, Catherine, who most people knew as Kathy. Kathy was 53 years old. She was warm and loving, always ready to offer a helping hand.
Kathy was just full on amazing. Everybody would be lucky to have a friend like Kathy.
Sherry Hodgins was Kathy's best friend.
30 years ago, he was working at an oil company and she was working for social services, and they met on an elevator one day and they became fast friends after that. Alvin was a true gentleman and Kathy looked up to him. She loved spending time with him. They were inseparable since the day they met.
They were dedicated, loving parents and grandparents.
They were a blended family. So Alvin and Catherine had been married over 20 years. And Alvin had a son, Alan, and Catherine, of course, had a daughter, and that's Jennifer. They also had a child together, Jeffrey.
In 2014, the couple was excited to begin a new chapter and enjoy their retirement. They planned to live in a rural community in west central Alberta, about a 4-hour drive north from Calgary.
And they also had a condo in Mexico. And so they were going to spend winters in Mexico, playing golf, and summertimes in Evansburg, closer to his brother.
The couple put their Calgary home on the market and planned to sell items they no longer needed in an estate sale at the end of June. They placed 8 ads on Kijiji, advertising everything from furniture to silk plants. Hundreds of people came and went from their house over the course of a few days at the end of June 2014. Their daughter, Jennifer O'Brien, took her 2 youngest boys, Max and Nathan, to help with the sale.
This was the last day of the estate sale, the 29th. She attended with Max, who was 1, and Nathan, who was 5 and had just finished kindergarten.
Nathan, how old are
liked, in particular, superhero costumes that had the padding so that they had the muscles. On this day, he brought the cape with him to his Superman outfit. And so he had found a little bamboo purse or bag, and he put his Superman cape and a pack of gum in there.
We were doing the garage sale, and two of her grandchildren came over, and Alvin very quickly closed the doors to the garage, and it was more important for him to go and play in the playground than to do the garage sale. So, and that's who Alvin was with his grandchildren. Like when those grandbabies, when they talked about them or they came over, I mean, the both of them just lit up.
This is home video of Kathy and her best friend Sherry taking a break from the sale to enjoy some ice cream.
We ran out to the Dickie D just because it was fun. It was like when we were kids running out to the Dickie D truck. And Kathy's favorite ice cream was the strawberry shortcake, and that's what she wanted that day.
They didn't want the day to end, so after the sale, they watched a movie together on a pull-out sofa bed in the basement, and Jennifer agreed they could stay for a sleepover.
Jennifer put Max to bed in the upstairs bedroom, and she went with him into the upstairs guest bedroom, which actually used to be her old bedroom.
Her intention was actually to stay overnight herself. And Max becomes her other son becomes very restless, and she decides, okay, I'm gonna go home and I'll come back in the morning. I'll take Max home or back to his familiar circumstances.
Jennifer told police that she left her parents' home with her baby at about 11 p.m. and locked the door behind her. Her father, Alvin, was asleep in the main bedroom. Her mother, Kathy, and Nathan were on a pullout in the basement. But at some point after Jennifer left, they moved upstairs to the spare room down the hall from Alvin. The next morning, Jennifer drove to her parents' home to pick up Nathan. When she got there, she was surprised to find the door ajar.
She gets into the house and then she finds a horrific crime scene. Something very bad has happened to her mom and dad and to her son. So you put yourself as a mom, right? What's the worst possible thing could happen to you? Is that your 5-year-old boy's missing. And this neighborhood, for all intents and purposes, is a safe neighborhood in the city of Calgary.
She walked through the house and called for her mom, for her dad, for Nathan, and then left the house. She called her husband, Rod. He said to call 911. She called 911 and they told her to wait in her car in case somebody was still in the home. And police arrived about 5 minutes later.
So the dispatch knows that there's something very bad's happened here, and they dispatch our uniformed members. Our uniformed members go in there, and the first thing they would do is go, look, you know, I can see right away I have a crime scene here. So our job in policing is preservation of life. That's number one. So what they would do is sweep through the house to see if anybody was injured, find, and that means closets, any place that anybody could possibly be. That would be outbuildings, you know, outside in the immediate area of the yard. That's their job. And then they realize, patrol goes, we've got a big problem here. They contact the Central General Investigation section. They dispatch a couple detectives. They're there in a short period of time, and they go, yeah, we have a big problem here.
One of the first things that you have to look at, of course, is those footprints of life. So when we looked at the Licknesses and Nathan, their footprints of life stopped. So there was no more use of bank cards. There was no use of credit cards. The cell phones were still there. One of the cell phones was found by one of the first responders, and I think it was Catherine's phone, because Jennifer was still outside trying to call it and they could hear the phone. Alvin's phone was found in the bedroom in a box, sort of thrown into places, thrown in there, it seemed.
Investigators also found the purse Nathan had claimed from the estate sale. Inside was his pack of gum and his beloved Superman cape.
Both vehicles were there. Okay, one was parked in front locked up. The keys, I believe, were at the residence. The other vehicle was in the back of a detached garage.
Police said it didn't make sense the couple would suddenly disappear with their grandson.
Solid background, hardworking individuals, no criminal background, no known criminal, contacts.
Was it a robbery gone bad?
And remember what Jennifer was talking about too. She said there had been some characters that had shown up there, some individuals that she had bad feelings about, that they were looking, they were looking to check out the sale, perhaps, able to come back, do some theft, those kind of things, right? This is the worst possible thing that could ever happen to a family, right? And as a parent or an uncle and aunt, you would never get over this. It'd be something for the rest of your life. And I think at that point they're going, it's the randomness of this, what's occurred here. I think that was probably one of the more bewildering pieces of this investigation at the front end, because often you have some inclination of a motive.
Coming up on Crime Beat, officers scoured the neighborhood for clues, but there was no sign of Nathan or his grandparents. Police would need to take extreme measures. That's coming up on Crime Beat. With a little boy and his grandparents missing, police issue an Amber Alert, one that would become one of the longest in Canadian history. Here's Nancy Hixt.
An Amber Alert has been issued for the abduction of a 5-year-old male from southwest Calgary today. Nathan O'Brien is a white male, 3 feet tall.
There was a fair amount of concern in the public. So now you got this random event. So was it just somebody in the neighborhood that just randomly went, to a house and got into a residence at night, right? And no explanation at this point. We didn't know how anybody got into this residence.
Police knocked on doors, hoping to find surveillance video that might provide answers.
So we would be looking for anyone that's, that's doing break-and-enters, that has a history of break-and-enters at night. You would look at sex offenders. You're going to look at anybody that's high risk in that particular area, and that is a wide area, right? You start bringing your analysts in. You start working those back, and as we progress, we did find some individuals in that area, right, that had potential that it could have committed this crime. There was an individual that was doing break-and-enters at night, right, in roughly in that area throughout the city.
Investigators developed a list of possible suspects.
I think we had 10, right? And you go, okay, James, doesn't sound like a lot, but each one of those has to be meticulously gone through. And the reason for that is we want to, it's so critical. Think of the emotion on this file, all right? Think of the emotion. We want to solve this file. But we also, with the integrity investigations, what you need to do is ensure that we exonerate the innocent and we convict the guilty. The idea is to find them, identify them, sit down, and put them down to a story. So where were you? What were you up to? What's been going on? What were you doing on June 30th, right? Between these hours, like what's going on in your life? Who are you associated with? Who then can verify what you're telling me?
Within hours of Jennifer O'Brien calling 911, forensic investigators began examining the home of Alvin and Kathy Lickness.
They saw what they thought were drag marks. So you had blood, but it looked like something had been pulled across the driveway and perhaps loaded into another vehicle, right? That was beside. So there was one vehicle in the driveway, and beside that, looked like a vehicle had been pulled in, right? And that individuals had been loaded up into this vehicle.
They photographed and documented all evidence, inside and outside of the house.
We had fingerprints in the house. We are finding fingerprints. We are finding hairs and fibers. It's just we don't know whose they are at the initial stages. That particular day they had an estate sale. We'd had a number of unknown persons go through the house during the estate sale. So if we're collecting hairs and fibers, we could have an exponential amount of evidence that we don't know the origins.
Calgary Police Senior Constable Ian Oxton became the primary crime scene investigator assigned to this case.
We were examining the house and we couldn't find a point of entry that you typically have in crime scenes, where there's a forced door or a broken window or something. Nothing was damaged that we could see initially. So we were wondering, is it a friend or associate of the family who came in, was invited in, or was already in the house when this happened, rather than a stranger coming in.
Investigators also called in several experts, including Sergeant Jody Arns.
I received a phone call that night, and then they asked if I could attend first thing in the morning on the 1st of July. There was a significant amount of blood within the residence, and they were asking if I could attend as the bloodstain pattern expert and document and give an opinion on it. And there were several times that I would hear a creak or a noise or something like that, and I would be like, he's probably hiding. And I would go and search through a closet because that's what I thought. You know what, maybe he got away and he was hiding. And I would run and check and see, just because I heard a noise or something like that, right? And I still had hope that he was somewhere alive, right?
Over the next 12 hours, Sergeant Arns meticulously examined and documented each of the bloodstains.
It was a multi-level house, so there were quite a few levels in the residence. And the bloodstains were contained on the main floor, the second level, and then the first lower level, where the garage and family room area were. In this particular case, we used LCV. It's leucocrystal violet, and it's a chemical that we spray in areas that we believe there is blood stain or if there's been a cleanup. And we'll spray this chemical and it reacts with the heme in the blood, and it'll turn like a dark purplish blue color if there is blood present. It is just a presumptive test, but it will give us a blue visual. So once it was sprayed within the kitchen, there was footwear impressions that became more evident, as well as there were swipe marks consistent with a mop or like a cleanup in the area.
We submitted that to, it's called SICAR, the Shoe Image Capture and Retrieval Database. And they were then able to tell us what kind of make and model of shoe that was. It's a system owned by the RCMP in Ottawa. So we knew fairly early on what kind of footwear we were looking for at the crime scene.
Arns said it was clear someone was injured, but who and how bad was difficult to determine.
The unfortunate thing about doing blood stain is you still have to analyze the blood to get a profile, so I know whose blood it is. So upon my initial attendance, I couldn't tell you if the 3 individuals that they were looking for were all bleeding. I couldn't tell you how many people were involved in regards to who the offenders could have been. There might have been 1, there could have been 2, there could have been 6, and who knows, they could have all been bleeding. So at that point, all I could say is, yes, you do have several areas of impact, but I can't tell you if all 3 have been injured, if 1 has been injured, or if there's multiple offenders, right?
The Amber Alert was still on. Investigators looked to Sergeant Arns for insight.
They were still trying to determine if anybody was still alive or if people would have died. So they asked me if I could basically give them a preliminary report. And on the 2nd of July, I actually attended with the medical examiner as well, with Dr. Brooks Lim. And they wanted both of us to basically provide some information and say whether we thought the people were still alive or if they've actually been killed, based on what we were seeing.
There's one blood stain in particular that both haunted investigators and gave them hope all at the same time.
On the stairwell from the main level up to the 2nd floor, there was a There was a linen closet kind of at the top of the stairs, and on the wall there were 4 little finger marks that were visible. And they were about 60 centimeters above the floor, so for me, I'm 5'8", and they were about my knee height is where this little handprint was. And I did put the scale against it, and it was, I think, probably about 8 centimeters in width in total. So it would indicate at that point that it was a small person or a child that would have left that handprint there. I guess the only bit of hope that that gave me was that the child was up and moving, because in order for the handprint to be on the location that it was, would mean that the child was stood up and was going down over the stairs and using the wall to actually, I guess, hold themselves up as they were going down. So to me, that was the only positive thing about it, was that, okay, the child was moving, so it's a good possibility he's still alive.
Coming up on Crime Beat, the news of the missing family was gripping the entire nation. Everyone held out hope that Nathan and his grandparents would be found alive. After 2 days passed with no sign of Nathan, his parents make a desperate plea for help. Here's Nancy Hixt.
Neighbors and complete strangers who wanted to show their support for Nathan, Alvin, and Kathy placed flowers, cards, balloons, and teddy bears on the front lawn of the Lickness home. Others tied green ribbons on their homes as a sign of hope for their safe return. Meanwhile, surrounded by their extended family, Nathan's parents, Jennifer and Rod O'Brien, made a heartbreaking plea for help.
Nathan, God is taking care of your soul, and Mom and Dad need you to be brave right now. To whoever has Nathan, please find it in your heart to drop off our little angel, Nathan, to which he can be rescued and reunited with his brothers and his family. To the public, our son and family could be anywhere right now. If you have any information, anything at all, please contact the police. We are grateful for all the support from everyone we have received online, our family and friends. Nathan, we love you big. We will see you soon.
I'm Nathan's mother, Jennifer O'Brien, and I'm the daughter of Alvin and Kathy Lickness. I appreciate you guys being here because I need Nathan to hear our voices, and I am grateful for you guys to allow this to happen. And Nathan, I need you to hear my voice right now, and I need you to know that Mommy and Daddy love you more than anything in this world. And we can't be with you right now, but the best people that can be with you other than us is your grandparents. And I know Grandma's holding you so tightly right now and taking care of you, and they are doing everything in their power to keep you safe. So I need you to know that. Stay strong, Nathan. Stay strong. We know you are our superhero, and I just need you to stay strong, and we are gonna see you. We're gonna see you, and we love you so much.
Rod O'Brien held a paper butterfly his son made for him, and Jennifer gripped one of Nathan's t-shirts in her hands.
He went everywhere forever in costumes. I think that he actually thinks he is Superman. And we didn't even buy him clothes, we bought him costumes because he loved to dress up, and that's why we refer to him as our superhero, because I know he's strong.
Your mom and dad, Luke and Maximus, and your whole family loves you to every star and back. Nathan? You are our superhero right now, and we're gonna bring you home very soon.
Both the family and police hoped that plea would spur someone to come forward, someone who could help them find Nathan, Alvin, and Kathy.
We don't know the motive behind this. Right now, we have 3 individuals who have disappeared under suspicious circumstances. I think that right now we're very positive that we're going to find these individuals. We're hoping we're going to find them alive.
Just a day later, on July 3rd, 2014, Nathan's mother, Jennifer O'Brien, returned to her parents' home.
We walked the family members through the home to try and identify any items that may be missing that we don't already know about.
It was estimated that upwards of 200 people passed through the house on the weekend of the estate sale.
Police are trying to find out if any items from the Lickness home are still unaccounted for, and that's why they're interviewing all of these people. Basically, they're looking for just any single piece of information that could help them find Nathan O'Brien and his grandparents.
We don't know if this is a random situation or not. Again, we're keeping an open mind and looking at all possibilities. We don't know the motive at this point, and that's one of the answers that we want to get during the course of our investigation. What was the motive of this?
Police received tips from all over North America that led to sweeping searches of neighborhoods and area landfills.
The tips were pouring in. So by the end of the 3rd day, we had 17,000 files right in our data set. So that becomes almost unmanageable. So you're running hard. You're running really hard. First 48 hours, I always talk about, you've seen the show 48 Hours. That's very true. But then what happens is fatigue starts to set in, and with fatigue, you start to, you have difficulty focusing, keeping your priorities straight. My job is to make sure there's enough resources and that we can keep the pressure up professionally again, right? Because we want to make sure we're going in the right direction. And when you get fatigued and tired, you can make errors, you can miss things, right? Right? And we can't afford to do that.
Coming up on Crime Beat, police were working around the clock, and word with every passing day, hope of finding Nathan and his grandparents alive was rapidly fading. Police knocked on every door in Alvin and Kathy Lickness's neighborhood, searching for clues. Then, a major break in the case. Here's Nancy Hixt.
Police tell us that less than half of the estimated 200 people who attended the Lickness estate sale on the weekend have come forward to speak to investigators. They're looking for more of those people to come forward in the next few days. The Amber Alert remains in effect right now.
Then, 4 days after the Amber Alert was issued, police released a photo. It was a green Ford F-150 truck.
The vehicle was seen in the area the night of the incident, driving in the area several times, and we believe that the person in that vehicle may have information that will assist us in our investigation. It's a very complex investigation. We still have a lot of work to do.
Well, that turned out to be the catalyst, because what happens is that truck, when it's released, right, in the color, and then one of the family members phones the lead detective.
It turned out the truck was associated with a person of interest who police already had on their list. Investigators needed to track that person down.
If you've got an individual that has actually committed murders or done abductions, they don't want to be caught, and how far are they prepared to go in even dealing with police officers to try and escape and get away. Those are on the back of your mind. So let's say those individuals are alive, right? And he's holding them hostage, and you tip him off, and you're not prepared then to do an intervention, right? Is there a possibility he could kill your hostages? Yeah, absolutely, right? Could he escape? Absolutely. Could he set an ambush out for the officers? Absolutely.
The search led police to a rural property near Airdrie, about a half-hour drive northeast of Calgary and the Lickness home.
We put surveillance resources on the farm to see what's going on. The RCMP is contacted. Now we found the farm in RCMP jurisdiction. We're looking at doing a tactical intervention with their emergency response team because we believe we still may have somebody alive.
Just after 6 p.m. on July 4th, 2014, a truck matching the description of the one seen near the Lickness home was seen leaving the farm. Officers pulled the truck over. The driver was arrested at gunpoint and taken to a police station in Calgary. The truck was seized, so were the man's shoes.
So the only way that we could get onto that property at this point was to do a hostage rescue, believing that the Licknesses and Nathan O'Brien were still alive, which gave us authorization to get onto the property. We have exigent circumstances, believing that the Licknesses and Nathan O'Brien might still be alive. That gives us authorization to go onto the property. Under Canadian law, your property is your right. It's a castle. We need a search warrant to come onto the property. But if I believe that for the preservation of life, I have to make an emergency ingress onto your property, I'm going to enter your property to do a rescue, to save someone's life, I can do that. That's exigent circumstances. That's emergency circumstances that authorizes us to go onto the property. Bearing in mind that down the line, I'm going to have to justify my actions in court.
The RCMP emergency response team went onto the property. They were instructed to search only for living or dead bodies, not to gather evidence. The search lasted about 2 hours, from 6:40 p.m. to just before 9 p.m. on July 4th, 2014. But there was still no sign of Nathan or his grandparents.
We went from farm to farm to farm and looking for abandoned buildings, and we actually talked to farmers. Is there a possibility on your farm that there's a building that you haven't checked for some period of time?
Chuck wagon driver Jimmy Nevada lived next door.
Police officer told my wife that they were going to be using the yard for RCMP guy for staging a raid and go back to your house. So there was 3 or 4 vehicles in here ready to go.
Nevada said an elderly couple lived on the property with their adult son.
He's got to be in his probably around 50. You know, he still lives at home, and I don't know much about him.
The following day, investigators began a thorough search of the farm. This time, they had a warrant.
We were going in pretty much blind. We didn't have anything. We didn't know anything of what happened. There was no witnesses. There was no idea of what to expect. I knew the previous night that the farm had been searched by the entry teams, the RCMP emergency response team had entered, and they did a hasty cursory search just looking for people to make sure that no one was injured or hurt or held. And then they had backed off and the warrant was in process. So I knew that the residence had been cleared of obvious persons. There was no one that they could find in the property. So we were going in hoping to find an indication of where they could have been taken, if there was somewhere else, another location that they could have been transported to. When I heard that it was a rural property of 40 acres, just for my background with search and rescue and evidence gathering on that aspect of it, I knew the 40-acre site was going to be difficult to search and process effectively because it's so large, just the vastness of that property.
The farm was massive, and so was the police presence that converged on the property. It was the largest search Calgary police had ever been a part of, and the magnitude was overwhelming. They went through the home room by room and also searched the garage that was packed to the rafters.
Coming up on Crime Beat, would the exhaustive search lead them to the missing child and his grandparents? As officers continued their desperate search, the clock was ticking, as they could only hold their primary suspect for 24 hours. Here again is Nancy Hixt with Hunted by Evil.
Forensic teams had to explore every inch of the 40-acre property. That included a multitude of outbuildings. They walked shoulder to shoulder through the surrounding fields, with crops often chest high. Dive teams were brought in to check the bodies of water that scattered the countryside. Canine units from both city police and the RCMP were deployed.
What we can see, so I'll walk the edge here and then space out maybe,
Volunteer search and rescue teams also joined in the efforts. Every resource that could be used was made available as officers raced against the clock in hopes of finding Nathan, Alvin, and Kathy.
The search will continue until no stone has been left unturned.
Right now we're looking at an area that's several square kilometers, and again, we don't know currently if we're going to have to search that entire area. It's based on the priorities from the investigator.
Police spent 24 hours with the primary suspect, but didn't have enough evidence to charge him in connection with the Amber Alert. Instead, he was charged with unrelated offenses, which meant he remained in custody. 6 days after Nathan and his grandparents disappeared, we learned the suspect was 54-year-old Douglas Garland. He had a connection to the missing family and a criminal past. Garland's been charged with a new case of identity theft, but it's the same identity Garland stole back in the 90s, that of Matthew Hartley, a 14-year-old Alberta boy killed in a southern Alberta car crash in 1980. At that time, on the same rural property by Airdrie that's being searched now, there was a drug bust. Garland was charged with drug trafficking and possession of stolen property after he was caught making amphetamines on his parents' acreage. But he fled and took on Hartley's name, living in BC with that identity for 7 years before finally being convicted of the drug charges in 2000. He was sentenced to 39 months in jail. For now, police have only laid the identity theft charge, but with the search continuing at his parents' acreage, Garland remains a person of interest.
Global News spoke with Alan Lickness, the son of Alvin Lickness and the brother-in-law of Douglas Garland, the person of interest in this case. He tells us that Douglas and Alvin had business dealings until the work ran out, and as far as the family was concerned, the two hadn't had contact in about 7 years.
Alvin's son, Alan, was in a common-law relationship with Garland's sister. She was the one who recognized the green truck on the news, which shifted the focus to Garland's farm, where the exhaustive search continued.
Officers were out once again today looking for any clue that could help in this investigation. Global's Nancy Hixt joins us now. And Nancy, a lot of effort being put into thoroughly searching that property.
That's right, another full day of searching this rural property northeast of Airdrie. Investigators have also been going door to door, checking with the property owners out here, asking them to check outbuildings, check anything that might seem out of the ordinary. It might be as simple as some tire tracks that seem suspicious.
You know your property better than anybody else. You can see if anything's missing, if anything's been disturbed, if there's anything odd, tire tracks, absolutely anything.
Today, the RCMP bomb truck with the explosive disposal unit also converged on the Garland property, but they determined that the items of concern were standard farm chemicals. As well, today in Calgary, the search of 3 city landfills continues. They're still trying to determine if any of the items that have been seized so far have any relevance in this case, but there's a lot to sift through at this point. Police are exhausting every avenue they have, but they are still remaining hopeful they will find Nathan O'Brien and his grandparents.
Despite identifying Garland as a suspect and the massive search of his property that continued, there was still no sign of the missing child and his grandparents.
They're going through everything. And anything that might be suspicious, we're taking as part of the investigation. We're having it checked, and we don't know whether it has any relevance to the file or not. I'm not going to speculate. I'm just saying that we are hopeful that we will find them alive, and there's nothing to indicate otherwise. So we will remain hopeful, and we'll continue to work on this.
A vigil was held at a park near the Lickness home.
I thank you dearly from the bottom of our hearts for being a part of this. This is what's helping get us through as a family. It's your prayers, it's the kind messages that you're sending, it's the food that you're sending, it's coming over to our house and spending time with us. That's what keeps our family strong.
Alvin and Kathy's son, Jeff, also spoke at the vigil.
I like to think of this whole thing kind of like as a flame to just keep the flame going. And I don't want to think of this as like a funeral, because I know it's not. I hope to see them again.
We're very hopeful that they're out there. There's no doubt in our mind. I truly believe that they'll figure it out, and so I hope this ends out to be a happy story.
In the meantime, Douglas Garland made several court appearances, and Nathan's father attended each one.
It's been 12 days since the disappearance of 5-year-old Nathan O'Brien and his grandparents. And as the search to find them continues, today the one man police consider a person of interest has been released from jail. Bail for Douglas Garland was set at $750. Global's Nancy Hicks was in court today, and Nancy, Garland has strict conditions to follow.
That's right, and just to make it clear, so far Douglas Garland has only been charged with fraud-related offenses, and that's what he was granted bail on. Once he is released, he will have a curfew to follow from 9 p.m. till 7 a.m. daily. He expressed some concern over that curfew, telling the court he lives on a farm and sometimes works past 9 p.m. But the judge was quick to clarify he's not being released to go back to the farm. Instead, he's being released to transitional housing. That could include a hotel or motel or the city homeless shelters.
It's a condition that's put on many releases, just so that all options are covered for anybody who's being released from custody. In case they don't have a house to go to, then they have the option of going to transitional housing.
Obviously, the farm is not a place that Garland can go live right now as police continue to search his parents' acreage northeast of Airdrie. He will be back in court at the beginning of August on this matter. In the meantime, the investigation continues into the disappearance of Nathan O'Brien and Alvin and Catherine Lickness.
Douglas Garland remained the primary suspect, so he was under constant surveillance while out on bail, in hopes he would lead police to Nathan and his grandparents. What happened next was an unexpected twist and a turning point in the investigation.
No question, he has got something on that farm he does not want us to see.
We see people trying to clean up, but this was done much more effectively than most crime scenes.
I mean, they were on their hands and knees, going by every blade of grass.
And immediately he showed a lot of interest in an area that looked to me like a burn pile. It was a pile of rubble that was charred.
You're hoping that they're going to be alive, but this is a pretty good indicator that you're probably not going to find them alive.
If somebody out there is thinking that there's one piece that's the smoking gun, one piece of information that has led to a break in the case, I'm here to tell you that this has been the compilation of an immense investigation.
If we were a week further down on this, I don't know what we would have had for evidence. This might be one that's sitting up on the shelf that's unsolved.
All I had in my mind was almost a cat and mouse, like, I'm gonna catch you, I'm going to get you. That's what you sign up to do. You sign up to catch the bad guy.
Mr. Garland, can you tell us what happened to Nathan O'Brien and his grandparents? Can you tell us where they are?
That's next time on Crime Beat. Join us for the conclusion of Hunted by Evil.
To learn more about this case, subscribe and listen to my Crime Beat podcast now for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And for previous episodes of Crime Beat TV, check out our YouTube page or download the Global Go app to watch on your phone.